Our little homestead is really productive. You can see we have enough greens to share them with the rabbits every morning, which they really appreciate. This is our front row garden, and this is our incredibly abundant backyard hotbed raised pallet garden. Not sure really what to call it all the time, but it is full of old tree clippings, sawdust, with a little bit of rabbit manure and potting soil on the top. And we get a lot of different harvests from it during the year. This is the greenhouse that my youngest daughter Kaya grew from April until the beginning of August. And these are our Airbnbers that were here from May until September. And they took over a lot of the gardening chores during that time because they wanted to learn. And especially Kaya didn't want to water anymore once we got into August out in the greenhouse. So Jesse took that over and rescued the greenhouse garden so that Kaya could do other chores. Talk about the greenhouse that you just rescued.
Hey everyone, today I'm just going to do a quick tour of the greenhouse. I've only been watering it probably 4 days since Kaya stopped watering it. She stopped watering it for
a long time.
Yeah, everything was pretty much dead, but as you can see in here, even with only 4 days of watering, things have really perked up. And about a month ago you cut down the stinging nettle and it's already shooting up. I haven't even been watering it, but I feel like it's been getting water off the boxes. And just a couple things in here. There's some cherry tomatoes, squash, some bee balm, some Thai basil, more cherry tomatoes, some lettuce that's on the seeds, sunflowers, and some more melon. So
we have eggs ready.
Okay.
Did you hear?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jessie is also putting together an incubator in the basement because we're taking eggs away from the ducks because they're not being good moms right now. So Jessie's about to go steal eggs. So I will follow her, and then you'll probably see how to do all this on her channel, Practical Revolution.
Yep.
All right. So she has 45 seconds to get those puppies in that what are they? Not a dehydrator. Incubator. So now Jessie's going to tell us what she thinks, because I'm prejudiced towards which beds I love the most.
These are my personal favorite. They're really easy to make. We made these pretty soon after we got here. They're just cardboard boxes. There's some rabbit manure, hay or straw, and some potting soil. The biggest expense in this is the potting soil, but if you have the cardboard boxes here, eventually they'll break down and worms will come up and make more soil. And they hold moisture really well. They're really good for squash and tomatoes. This pepper's coming back. Here's some herbs.
Because she stopped watering these 2 weeks ago, and you can see these are the ones that came back. They bounced back the fastest.
Yes. This one's already producing a couple squash down here.
Okay, so your comparison between what's happening in the greenhouse and what's happening up in the front garden, the rows or the hotbeds or the in-ground garden that's in the backyard, what are your thoughts on those?
I feel like it depends what you want to do with your garden. If you're feeding your family, if that's your main focus, if you're feeding your animals, if you're just experimenting and you don't really care about your how much you're harvesting. I would say for quantity, the beds out front, they produce the most, but I feel like their taste isn't as good as the hotbed in the backyard. Not this one, the other one.
Right.
But also the hotbed in the backyard, I feel like produces the best tasting vegetables, and you can garden longer. Yeah, bugs are really attacking the cabbage in the front row, but in the hotbed,
Right.
Bugs aren't really an issue. And a big thing, if you're looking at time, I would go for the hotbeds. You don't have to weed them if they're higher up and you use weed-free soil to start off with. The rows in the front, you said you had to get them tilled. That's an expense. And if your goal is to have a weed-free garden, it's...
Yeah.
And
it was exhausting. You built 3 of those beds? How many of those beds did you build?
So yeah, this is out front in the long road garden. Pretty much when we got here, everything, actually, Paige and I, we started these potatoes. The onions were already established. And then with the girls' help and Zach's help, we formed the 3 beds you see right here. My opinion, these are a lot of work to form the beds, but as you can see, they produce a lot. And another thing I wanted to point out, you can see starting right here compared to here and over there, this is where Zach and I started weeding. Really heavy from the get-go, and I mean, I haven't weeded in probably a month, but just getting the weeds from the start, like after weeding after watering and weeding after it rains, you can really see a difference. And then after that point, Julianne and the girls have been weed whacking the pathways just to keep down the weeds. And what else?
And we planted several times.
Yes.
Many times, and lots of seeds every time.
Because we started planting before you're actually supposed to start planting in Idaho. When's the last frost date? June?
Technically it's May 15th, but
it always snows in June. I've been here the past couple summers, and there's always like, it's not like snow that sticks on the ground, but
it's enough.
It can stunt plants.
Yeah.
So the sunflowers, it was actually between Paige and myself, we planted 3-4 times.
I think the only thing we didn't plant multiple times was the corn.
No, Paige planted the corn twice.
Did she plant it again?
But yeah, now the corn's coming up. This row's a little crazy. Can't even walk down it because I planted squash about 6 inches apart, and then the same day Zach planted more squash without, I don't know, it was just a lack of communication that day. So now you can't walk down the path, but that's okay. Yeah, a couple of days ago, the squash, it was growing up the sunflowers all the way at the top.
Yeah.
That was a little crazy. Just for a future note, I would plant, because at first we thought this was going to be the last row, or even we thought that was going to be the last row, but
yeah,
I don't know, we just wanted things to do, so we kept adding rows. In the future, I would definitely have any squash or pumpkin be your last row, or even especially the corn so it doesn't shade anything. And then in this row, let's see what was planted. Chinese cabbage, daikon radishes, potatoes,
squash,
more squash. I don't know, I feel like everyone just planted in this row because at first nothing was coming up.
Yeah.
So then it's where the multiple plantings come in handy. Because the daikon radishes were growing underneath the potatoes.
Yeah.
They were getting shaded out. They weren't looking too good. Nematodes were getting to them, so they weren't really good for us to eat, but the rabbits love them. One big thing I noticed, or I wish I would have done, I wish I would have planted something else with the sunflowers, something more low covered, or lower to the ground, because a lot of weeds were coming up with the sunflowers. I don't know, I just wanted a pretty row of sunflowers, that's it, nothing else with them, but I think they would have done a lot better. They would have held in more moisture if there was just something else planted with them. I didn't do a lot of research at the time with companion planting and sunflowers, what they do well with, but in the future I'd do more research and plant more things with the sunflowers.
The beans have been our biggest failure.
Yes.
That we have planted and planted and planted beans, and finally I gave up and I just dug a trench and planted these, and they finally came up, but I think it had more to do with the time of year. It was July.
I tried planting beans with the corn, so did Kaya. You planted beans here.
A flop, just a huge flop.
You tried planting beans in the hotbed, and I don't know.
And then Zach and Jesse specifically wanted to plant the melons.
Yeah, because I think it was last month I went to the store and I just had the worst watermelon ever. I think it was either that day or the next day. I was like, even if we're not here to get watermelon, I don't think we will be, because they're still pretty small. I just wanted to try to plant melons.
Yeah. And they're kind of fun when they take over. They're pretty, aren't they?
Yeah.
They did the hill system, and honestly, I think with the squash, I preferred the hill system with the squash rather than the row, because it's really hard to walk around them, and it's nice to have more space and be able to get the fertilizer to them.
Which I feel like even for like a family of 2, I probably spend $20 a week on produce if I'm not here. So I feel like spending a little bit more money on seed, I would say it's worth it. Then you can feed your family, you can feed your animals, you can compost the rest in place, add nutrients to the soil.
Yeah.
You just cut the whole thing.
I just do it down to the wherever I feel like reaching.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is a different variety than up there.
Up at the other side.
Yeah.
And we've got more.
The other side, the leaves are more purple. What do you think?
It probably, because I've taken this start from a lot of different people.
Oh, we should probably measure it. Do you want to or no?
We've already got the measurements that go on the jar. I wouldn't worry.
Okay. This looks like the same size as what I did.
I'm not sure.
And so every duck we have has just been the duck that people have said, please don't butcher them, we love them.
That's what my brother did. He gave them away to
Yeah.
these people with a pond
Yeah,
that were like, we're gonna take care of them.
exactly. Which is fine. I don't know if I've ever actually given them away before. I think I've traded.
Yeah, these are good size.
And they should be easy to scrub too. Oh my gosh, we'd have so many more. We'll just wait. Oh.
Yeah, because these were planted the week we got here.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Holy crap.
That must be the main one.
This isn't the one that was planted.
That's what Paige was saying, was the one that we planted that made the rest. Because you had to plant it to a potato to get it to a potato plant.
So maybe this one is the one because
No, because generally what they'll do, honey,
Go
is
rot.
they'll-
This is the one that was
those are-
planted.
Yeah, they just
It's rotten.
Yeah.
Wait, think. These weren't even certified seeds. I planted the certified seeds in the hotbed. So these are just clunky old, like, out of the root cellar potatoes. There.
Oh my god.
Holy. I mean, that's as big as you buy them from the store.
Yeah.
That's bigger than a lot of those.
Oh my god.
And so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Now that we have disturbed soil and we're not broadcasting like huge amounts of seed, now this is going to have to be like intensively weeded. Just for a second. Feels a little humid under there, doesn't it? Is it just because we're halfway in and halfway out? I wonder.
don't know.
So Zach took chicken wire from our neighbor, and where there used to be plastic, rigid plastic, now there's chicken wire so that we can put baby ducks in and they'll be safe from the cats. And he put our rocks that are on our property along the bottom to keep predators out, and it just looks so nice. I was trying to figure out why somebody was digging up the driveway.
Yeah, I thought that.
I didn't go to look, I just thought about it for a bit, and I'm like, nobody has any reason to dig up the driveway. And I remembered that you had asked for stilts. How does it feel to be 4 inches taller?
Huh?
How does it feel to be 4 inches taller?
Unbalanced.
Unbalanced?
Well, one stilt's unbalanced, the other one is pretty good. But this one I need to tie on tight now. Is that plastic?
What?
Plastic one keeps on blasting, remember?
Oh. Looks like fun.